Good morning, everybody. Whoop. Silence your phones, please. I'm sorry. Good morning, everybody. It is Monday, November 4th, 2024. This is a special meeting of the Commissioners of the City of Rehoboth Beach. We are live at City Hall, Commissioners Room, second floor. I'd like to call this meeting to order at exactly 9 o'clock a.m. I'm going to start off with roll call. Commissioner Suzanne Good, absent. Commissioner Don Preston.
Here.
Commissioner Ed Stranowski.
Here.
Commissioner Patrick Gossett.
Here.
Commissioner Bunky Markert.
Here.
Commissioner Craig Thier.
Here.
Mayor Stan Mills is here, and we have don't have a full complement, but we have a quorum and are able to formally conduct business today. I'd also like to introduce staff that's here today, and that is Henry Matlos, starting right to left, Public Works Supervisor, Assistant City Manager Evan Miller, City Manager Taylor Tedder, and City Secretary Ann Womack. You notice we have an absent seat for the City Solicitor, and we'll be addressing that shortly. I do want to thank everybody that's here virtually. Thank you for watching. Thank you for those that are here in person. And I'd like to have a reminder that we solicit feedback on select items, that they will allow you to talk one time per topic for a maximum up to 3 minutes. And then we have citizen comment at the end of the agenda. That's for off-topic items. Also a 3-minute limit. If you would raise your hand when it's time to speak, and I'll call on you. The same for the commissioners. Also a reminder for the commissioners is please speak into the microphones. Support documents, when they're available in advance of a agenda topic and meeting, are embedded in the agenda, and you'll be able to access those on our city's portal. With that, the purpose of this special meeting is to discuss threefold. We'll start off with A, discuss and consider appointment of Connolly Gallagher LLP as interim city solicitor. I'll turn it over to City Manager Taylor Tedder.
Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. As you know, on October 23rd, 2024, the city received notification from Baird, Mandalis, Brockstead, and Federico, our city solicitor's firm, that they would be withdrawing from all various representations of the city effective immediately, and that the city must retain replacement counsel within the next 45 days. A new city solicitor selection process is planned, which is the upcoming agenda item. But in the meantime, an interim city solicitor is necessary to serve the city in the capacity as necessary for legal advice to the commissioners and other offices of the city, and to perform other legal services that may be required of them. So as part of Section 19 in the Rehoboth Beach Charter, the commissioners select and appoint the city solicitor, and Connolly Gallagher LLP is willing to serve in the interim capacity as city solicitor, as they are not going to be applying to the RFQ process to be considered as a permanent solicitor. Attorneys Lauren DeLuca and Max Walton would be the ones serving the city until a permanent solicitor is selected and identified. In your packet, I've included a bio of both Ms. DeLuca and Mr. Walton, along with a copy of their engagement letter that the city would be planning to execute if you would like to move forward with this item. I stand here before you with for any questions you may have.
Any questions, Commissioner Gossett?
If I may, just for clarification, Section 19 of the City Solicitor, as outlined in the City Charter, states that the commissioners shall select and appoint a city solicitor for an indefinite term who shall be removable at the pleasure of the commissioners of Rehoboth Beach, either with or without due cause stated. The city solicitor shall be a member in good standing of the Bar of the State of Delaware. It shall be their duty to give legal advice to the commissioners and other offices of the city and to perform other legal services as may be required of them by the commissioners. Does this candidate that you're bringing forward meet the criteria outlined in the charter?
Yes.
Thank you.
Anybody else? If not, then I would entertain a motion to appoint Connolly Gallagher LLP as interim city solicitor.
Mayor, I move that we appoint Connolly Gallagher LLP as the interim city solicitor.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Don Preston and a second by Commissioner Ed Stronowski to appoint Connolly Gallagher LLP as interim city solicitor as noted. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? And the motion's carried unanimously among those here. So we welcome Lauren DeLuca up to the table with us. Thank you very much. And with that, we'll move to the second item of business for the purpose of this special meeting, which is to discuss and consider directing the city manager to issue a request for qualifications, RFQ, for the city solicitor position as chief legal counsel to the city. Taylor?
Good morning again, Mayor and Commissioners. As you know, Baird, Mendalis, Brockstead, and Federico law firm and Glenn Mendalis' former firm have represented the city of Rehoboth Beach since 2006. Originally, Glenn Mendalis served as the city solicitor until November 6, 2023, when the Board of Commissioners appointed Alex Burns as city solicitor. The Board of Commissioners ratified that appointment again on March 15th, 2024, based on an Attorney General opinion. The Board of Commissioners then provided a favorable public performance review of the city solicitor at their August 16th meeting of this year. And on October 23rd, again, the city did receive notification from Mr. Mendalis that their firm would withdraw from all various representations of the city effective immediately. A new city solicitor selection process is necessary to serve as the chief legal counsel to the city. And per Section 19 of the City of Rehoboth Beach Charter, the commissioners shall select and appoint a city solicitor for an indefinite term who shall be removable at the pleasure of the commissioners of Rehoboth Beach, either with or without due cause stated. The city solicitor shall be a member in good standing of the bar of the state of Delaware, and it shall be his duty to give legal advice to the commissioners and other offices of the city and to perform other legal services as may be required of him by the commissioners. So in our last meeting, when we had discussion about a new city solicitor, whether that could be someone as a city employee, if this would again be someone as part of a firm where they act as an independent contractor, staff did reach out to the city of Wilmington to discover how their on-staff city solicitor's office operates. They are a much larger municipality, so they have approximately 17 attorneys on staff. And their city solicitor oversees an entire law department where they have a deputy city solicitor, a senior assistant city solicitor, and various other attorneys in that department. The salary ranges for those positions range from $100,000 a year to $216,000 or more a year, plus benefits on top of that. So at this time, the RFQ included in your packet is written for either an independent contractor or an employee of the city. So someone could present a proposal to you for either of those scenarios. But depending on how you feel about that, I could make corrections to the RFQ to have one or the other or leave it to address both. So it is anticipated that the city solicitor will be the key to providing the city with a proactive approach to managing the city's business, and wherever possible, anticipate both long and short-term impacts of its actions, use of resources, and legal impacts. The city solicitor will additionally manage all the legal services and representation of the city and act either as that independent contractor or employee. The city solicitor can also utilize other resources if they are part of a firm, in consultation with the mayor, city manager, and retain and manage our outside counsel and attorneys that may also be necessary for the city's variety of matters to address. While outside counsel would still be necessary for certain areas under the direction of a new city solicitor, the cost and utilization of outside counsel could become more limited depending on the city solicitor's resources that they have available to them at their firm. So specifically through the city's engagement with Baird Mandalis, the following rates were paid. So to Mr. Burns, our former solicitor, he was paid at a rate of $300 an hour. The managing partner, Mr. Mandalis, was $450 an hour. And then when we had Mr. Mehta representing the Planning Commission, that was $400 an hour. Our other outside counsel of the city, just for comparison, carry the following rates. Mr. McMacken, who advises us on government and employment matters, that's $525 an hour, and various associates at his firm, Morris James, are $370 an hour. With Connolly Gallagher, partners are $450 an hour. Mr. Townsend, who represents the Board of Adjustment, is $300 an hour. The new temporary counsel for the Planning Commission, Mr. Larson with MG and M, the law firm, is $410 an hour. And then our bond counsel is a per engagement basis. It's a lump sum depending on the bonds. So moving to look at our costs for legal services. So first I'll go over last fiscal year, which was FY24. The city spent $542,458 on legal services, and we came in right under budget of $550,000. Of that, $436,324 was paid specifically to the city solicitor's firm, and $163,985 of that total was paid for legal counsel to the Planning Commission. So in this current fiscal year, to date, we've spent just over $420,000 on legal services. We do have 5 months remaining. Our total budget this year is $598,500. And of that total, we've paid just over $337,000 to the city solicitor's firm, and about $105,000 of that total was paid for legal services of the Planning Commission. So another piece to this puzzle, due to recent FOIA opinions by the Attorney General's office, the recruitment and selection process of a new city solicitor, if they are going to act as an independent contractor, must be done in open public meetings. It cannot be done in executive session. However, if the individual is applying to be an employee of the city, that's the only scenario that it would not be conducted in a public meeting. So the proposed schedule, today I'm hopeful that we can move forward with direction to the city manager to issue this RFQ. Submissions would be due the Monday after Thanksgiving weekend, December 2nd. I would then write an executive summary and cover memo of the key points and qualifications to present to you, the Board of Commissioners. Then we would have a review of the submission packages, and hopefully we could have you create a short list of candidates during a special December meeting. Interviews would then occur later that month at a special meeting in December. And as part of the interview day, we could also have a staff evaluation committee made up of key staff that interface with the solicitor on a daily basis so that we could provide you some additional feedback for your decision-making process. And then it would be expected that the new city solicitor would begin their services with the city sometime between January and February of 2025. So again, today, the direction that I'm seeking is to issue a request for qualifications for the city solicitor position, and of course your discussion. So I'm here for any questions you may have. Thank you.
Commissioners, any questions? Commissioner Shanowski?
Taylor, how do you plan to advertise this RFQ? And I think sending it out to all of the major law firms in the state that do city government work is easy, but how do you plan to advertise to those individuals that may want to apply to be an employee?
Sure. So there are several areas where we can advertise. There are actually city attorney positions that are advertised on the ICMA website for a national reach. We would also look to advertise in the State Bar Association, all of their publications and online material, the newspaper, and any other organizational pages that are geared towards attorneys online for sure. We've also been doing a lot of advertising on LinkedIn for the city, so we would also utilize that.
Thank you.
Any other commissioners? Commissioner Markert?
Just to sort of extend that thought, I'm of understanding that in situations, I would think probably more so if we were considering an employee position, that there are headhunters effectively for, for finding qualified candidates or something. I was just curious if we were entertaining that idea, or we're not there yet, or what, is that a consideration?
I don't think that we are considering that at this point. Right now, I think if we issue the RFQ, see what we get, and then reevaluate if we need to. Again, if you want to go the employee route, that might be a good idea. But if we're looking for a firm, sending it out for firms to submit may be ideal.
Okay.
Any other commissioners? Commissioner Thayer?
Yeah, so a couple things.
Microphone.
Sorry. So the first is, and you had referenced recently there was identified a conflict of interest with the planning, with Luke Mehta being part of Baird Mandalis. So the one thing, and you may have done this already, but I would ask is I think probably now is a good time to make sure we identify any potential conflicts of interest, right? We've got various, where I'm going, we've got various committees here that have various attorneys. So identify all those conflicts of interest. Let's get that sorted out now and identify, who we need to put where so we don't run into any issues going forward. So that'd be one.
That's a great point, and I will also make this point that that firms that may have a conflict right now might be able to stop representing a certain area if they wanted to move forward with the solicitor position. So it will definitely be something at the top of our minds. Yeah.
Great, thank you. The second question I had was, look, I will say from my perspective, I think we should explore all of the options, right? When I say all of the options, it's really two. One, potentially hiring a solicitor as an employee, as well as looking at outside firms. Where I wasn't clear is you made a reference to if we were to hire someone as an employee, what that process would be like, right? I mean, we want to make sure that this process is entirely open. We follow all the FOIA rules. You seem to make some sort of indication that some of that, might not be done in public session. Did I misunderstand you?
You understood correctly. So governing bodies in the state of Delaware can hold executive sessions if it is about an employee, which right now, essentially, I'm your only employee that works directly for the board. But if you had a solicitor as your employee as well, you could also do the interview process. However, when it would come to hiring that individual, you would have an employment agreement and post it according to the law before you consider it.
Okay. The next question I have is really on the numbers, right? So on what was spent last year, right, versus what's been spent year to date. So in 24, we spent about $542,000, and year to date, we've spent about $420K. Just based on a simple run rate, we're looking at spending $724,000. So really two questions for you. Do you think that's where we're going to end up, is 724K, which would be, 175,000 more than we did last year, which leads to kind of my second question, which is the budgets. I mean, do we, you and I have talked a lot about, the need to, reforecast. I don't say the need, right? You're working on that. But do you think these original budget numbers are any good? I look at the Planning Commission, for example. They spent 168,000 last year, but the budget this year was only 120. So you may not have the answer to that. If you don't have the answer to that, my question is really kind of two things. One, do you think we're going to end up at 724,000 spent in legal fees for this year? And two, do we think the budget was not any good? And if you don't know the answer to those questions, I don't want to put you on the spot, but any feedback you can provide would be great.
No, I think feedback related to that, as you have a good point. However, I think we've had a lot of one-time legal expenses earlier in the year, so it may be closer, but right now I can't say.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Uh,
Commissioner Preston?
Yeah, Mayor, is the question before us, are we going to issue an RFQ that gives the flexibility to hire either a firm or an individual? Is that what I'm hearing?
That's the way it's currently written.
And between now and that time, we would then make a decision as a board which way we want to go?
Correct. So you would receive the submission packages and see what you get. You might have someone that does want to be an employee. You might have people as part of a firm or all firms.
The reason I'm asking is I think it's a fair request. It's a fundamental shift in how we do business. If we move to hiring a city solicitor as effectively a staff person, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's just it'll take some consideration by this board in order to make that decision. And I wonder in the recruiting process if you approach it slightly differently. If you're going after an individual who would serve as effectively our general counsel versus a firm who would supply us, an attorney or a stable of attorneys who would look after us. I just wonder if the recruiting process is slightly different. That's all. I don't know the answer. Maybe Lauren knows.
I don't know. Privately, I've wondered and I've heard through the years, is it time to look into it in-house? So I think this hybrid system is very good. I'm a little skeptical, however, because I know very little about it, and we're going to have to evaluate it. But look right here. There's 7 different, I think at least 7 different attorneys listed on this sheet here already. Now we're going to replace it with just one attorney and in-house. Again, I know minimal, but I would say that they're not going to be an expert in everything. They're not going to be an expert in real estate, so they're going to have to go to somebody else for real estate. They're not going to be an expert in bonding, and they're going to have to go to somebody else. And you probably say that for 15 different categories of things. So really an in-house person, I think, is more, to me, of a manager of legal services. But I'm willing to go for it and recognize that there may be additional questions that we want to ask of that candidate to better help evaluate it. And yet, it may be a turnoff as soon as we get 1 or 2 responses. Commissioner Preston?
Well, I agree with you, Mayor. It may be the situation that an in-house counsel, general counsel, is effectively a manager of sorts. I think that's instinctively, I think, given what I know about our work, that might not be a bad thing. And I say that only because something that Taylor said in his presentation really caught my attention. He said in the interview process, we would have key staff interview the person or persons, the key staff who interact with this person on a daily basis. I wonder, why are staff interacting with outside counsel on a daily basis? That comes at a very high cost to the city. If you have an in-house counsel that they're working with, then that person can help control at least that engagement with outside counsel. To me, that is responsible. So I'm not suggesting that I have a view one way or the other at this point. I'd like to dig into this a little bit more. But back to my original question is the recruiting process a little different? And maybe, Lauren, you have some thoughts on that. I know you're brand new. It's your first day here, and welcome, by the way.
Thank you.
But maybe you could shed some light on if you think that the recruiting process would be similar or slightly different. Go ahead.
Sure. I mean, naturally, the distinction between an employee and a contractor is a big one, and a lot of the employment laws will kick in and govern that process if you're hiring an employee versus a contractor. Just looking at your request for qualifications now, it is designed to kind of be flexible, but it does it says the successful candidate will be hired for a full-time or substantially full-time position as either an employee or independent contractor. I mean, when I hear full-time, that rings like employee to me. So I think for your process, you might want to be really clear kind of in the beginning what your goals are. And as the mayor mentioned, it is a rare person who's a jack of all trades or Jill of all trades. And you may not get someone who's, does land use and employment and real estate. But if you're looking for more of a manager type of in-house counsel who has a little bit of knowledge about a lot of things and knows who the right people are to go to in the state for outside counsel, that's a different process. But I think you probably want to be clear from the beginning what you think is the better model and then follow that process accordingly, because it could differ.
Thank you.
So if I maybe clarify your question, Commissioner, it sounds like it could possibly be better to have two separate RFQs, one for in-house, one for out-of-house, rather than the hybrid single RFQ. Is that what?
It seems to me I don't think you can demand of a law firm that they provide you somebody who is acting as a substantially full-time anything, certainly not employee. I think, and that's what tripped me up when I was looking at the document. So I think that you might want to do it as two RFQs. And they could run simultaneously. We're not committed to either one. Well, we're probably committed to one or the other, but not both. And that would give us the flexibility to make a determination.
So I guess I would be comfortable still moving, getting a motion to proceed, but not micromanaging the city manager. Let him decide
I agree.
the best path. You've heard our voices, and
Yeah, we certainly could do a mirror image package for both scenarios, so that wouldn't be a problem at all.
anybody else?
I just wanted
Commissioner
to
Marker?
maybe pose a question to Lauren. It's sort of my limited understanding, at least as from the attorneys that I know, that the sort of nature of the business has certainly shifted. I don't know since when, but there's way more sort of compartmentalization and specialty, and obviously, if you're competent in certain areas, you're going to want to focus on that stuff. And I would believe that when instances arise, it's like with telecommunications or some kind of thing that we have never had any kind of experience in, whether we have an in-house person or we have a counsel, they're going to call that guy, right? I mean, your firm would probably call the person who would be specializing. So I would anticipate that when you were saying we're talking about 7 people or whatever, but I mean we do now specialize in personnel and that kind of thing. So I would anticipate that we're probably going to end up with more than relationships with more than 1 or 2 attorneys, whether they're with the firm or they're or in-house, but we would have the flexibility to be able to go out in either case, you know, to be able to find that specialized need, you know, if we need it, you know, that kind of thing. So that, I'm just trying to basically state that. I assume that would be kind of what we would, the expectation, so.
So again, would feel comfortable if somebody made a motion as suggested in here, seeking broad RFQ specifications there. Does not have to say that it is verbatim for what's presented. It just is generic, direct the city manager to issue an RFQ.
Mayor, I'll move that we direct the city manager to issue a request for qualifications for the position of city solicitor.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Don Preston, a second by Commissioner, forgive me, we'll put a pause on and we'll go to the public with their public, Carolyn, and then Walter. Name and relationship to the city, please.
Is your mic on?
What?
There's a button.
It is now. I got it. I think I got it.
You're
Okay.
a frequent flyer. We
Yeah.
should teach you how
Yeah.
to turn it on.
Yep, Carolyn Diefendorfer, city resident. I just wanted to mention one thing. When I read the RFQ, there's nothing in there about Parks and Shade Tree. And we have typically had the city solicitor at the Parks and Shade Tree meeting, so that should be added. Okay, thank you.
Good point. Thank
Yep.
you.
Thank you.
Walter?
Good morning, Walter Brittingham, 123 Henderson Avenue. Would it be appropriate for consideration to ask a question? Do you have an office or looking for a preference of a firm having an office, notwithstanding the internet and everything else, but within the state of Delaware? Thank you.
Thank you, Walter. We'll respond to that.
It is a requirement that they'll be in Delaware, definitely.
Have an office in Delaware or Sussex County.
I mean, obviously, we would want this individual to be as close as possible.
Right. Come on up. Yeah, if you're going to speak, you got to come up in front of us.
Sam Cooper, 13 Newcastle Street. I thought the charter said Sussex County, because I remember past firms opened a little office or something here to be able to do that. I guess I came in a little bit late, but despite some of people's hopes, I don't think the city has gotten big enough yet to have their in-house counsel. And I think it would be ill-advised to either advertise for both at the same time, because it seems to me like you'd be potentially turning off either one side or the other, even if you got two separate proposals. If the firm knows you're out for at the same time for a individual, they're going to say, they don't know what they want to do. We don't need their business. And I think, the outside, again, along that same vein, is that once you have an inside counsel, they're not going to have the exposure, I think, to other, if you have somebody that does other cities' work, they're going to be seeing things coming up at other towns that they're going to be aware of. If they're sitting here, they're going to have lunch with their friends occasionally, that sort of thing. But to your point, Commissioner Preston, excuse me, my experience is, as far as managing the contact with the city solicitor from the various departments, that's the city manager's job. He should be managing who and when they contact and use the city solicitor. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
And Mayor, do you mind if I respond to the one piece?
Yes,
So you're right, the charter did used to have the provision that the attorney had to be in Sussex County. That was changed in 2006. But of course, we want them to be in Sussex County, definitely.
And frankly, as far as the motion goes, I think it gives latitude for the city manager to even hold off doing that if you evaluate it and you wanted to advertise one at a time. So, I mean, that would be fine with me. But are there any further members of the public? Any further, Commissioner
Mayor, if
Gossett?
I may, I support going forward with the RFQ as outlined here. One of the elements, though, I feel is missing is basically, although the roles are outlined here, but a job description of what is expected of the solicitor as they're serving the city. And it may have been an error of management or oversight that this is the way it's always done, and it's just evolved. And sometimes we look at it, I compare it to a garden. It's a beautiful garden when it starts, but it needs to be weeded. And I don't think we've effectively done that. So I think that with the role of the city manager new in place, that we can have a fresh start of exactly the expectations of the city solicitor for the city commissioners and its staff. So as a parallel part to the RFQ that goes forward. And one of the other aspects that I would like to see addressed, and not at this time, but perhaps at the next workshop, is how the transition of materials will be handled between the existing city solicitor and the incoming city solicitor. We have an 18-year relationship with the current or the former firm, and there's a lot of material that is out there that I would assume, and maybe incorrectly, that is our material belongs to us, even though that they have been managing it, but to get a complete transfer of materials for those 18 years of service so that we know our background.
Yes, we are going to plan on requesting our complete transfer of our file, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, we'll get back to the motion. If you recall, we have a motion by Commissioner Don Preston and a second by Commissioner Ed Chernowski to direct the city manager to issue the RFQ for the city solicitor position. And again, is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? And the motion carries. Thank you very much
you.
for your work and for the data that you provided here. That brings us to item C. The purpose of this special meeting, item C, is discuss and consider a change order for the annual street paving contract to add the paving of Scarborough Avenue Extended. Henry?
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. So what I'm proposing here is a change order for the paving and water main replacement. In FY25, the water main is currently being replaced on Maryland Avenue and First Street from just north of Baltimore to north of Virginia is being repaved. And also Maryland is also being repaved. So this was presented in the August 5th, on August 5th. The numbers for the engineer's estimate, Mumford & Miller, who was awarded the contract, and Adel and George & Lynch, who also bid.
Any questions by the commissioners? Commissioner Preston, I'm sorry.
I should have asked this question earlier because I know this information came to us earlier, but it just struck me as I was preparing for the meeting. Why is Mumford & Miller a couple $100,000 less than the other bidders? Is there, that seems atypical to me.
You know, it's a business decision that they made. Adel is doing the work on Rehoboth Avenue. I'm not sure if they really needed the work and wanted the work, wanted to get a foothold kind of in the city doing more work for us. So far, we, myself and the construction manager, Wallace Montgomery, have been very, very pleased with the work thus far. So it was really a business decision on their part. Just kind of like with the beach patrol, Delmarva Veteran Builders was $620,000 under the next lowest bidder.
Yeah, Don, over the years, I've monitored some of the bidding processes, and the the discrepancy between low bid and high bid, it can be fantastic sometime. And my theory has always been that some of the businesses are so busy that they will put a premium on there and they'll be willing to bend over backwards and do it, but they really don't need the job.
Yeah, that's
And,
fair enough.
Yeah. So,
It just
so
is a
it's not,
striking difference.
it's not
to
a
me.
signal of
Yeah.
lack of quality or something that I see.
Good.
Anybody else? All righty, well, then I would,
I'm sorry, Mayor, just a question, is, if we
Commissioner
approve this,
Gossett, go ahead.
if we approve this, what would be the mobilization or schedule for work to be begun and completed for Scarborough?
If you don't mind, Commissioner, I'll get into that in a little
Okay.
bit.
Thanks.
So, and Commissioner Preston, in a case like this, it's something that we can maybe use to our advantage and get additional work done. So,
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
It was just again, I should have asked the question much earlier, and I apologize for not. But
no, it's a very fair question. I was kind of shocked too when it came in that low. So in the approved budget for FY25 was $850,000. Again, there's the Mumford Miller bid with a difference of about $212,000. And what I'm recommending is, what I have in the proposal is to pave Scarborough Extended Avenue not to exceed $125,000. Now, reason pick Scarborough Avenue, I walked it or drove around town, looked at reports with the construction manager, Wallace Montgomery, and we want something here that is simple. You know, we don't want any large water main replacements. We don't want to do a lot of sidewalks or curb ramps, and also obviously in need of paving. And Scarborough Extended, better than any other street, in my opinion, fits those categories. A lot of other streets, if we decided to do that, we'd have to do curb ramps and sidewalks. And in future years, we need to also really balance the paving with the water main replacement and service line replacement.
Henry, your document's very good. It mentions it's for paving the full length of Scarborough. I just want to clarify, that's from Route 1 all the way down to the lake?
That's correct, Mayor. And another reason with Scarborough Avenue, a year or two ago, there was a lot of construction going on, residential construction, remodeling of homes, a lot of street cuts. And there really is minimal construction going on there now. So now would be, that's another reason would Scarborough Extended would be a good choice for this.
Thank you.
So my request, I'm requesting board action at this workshop to approve a change order to paving the water main contract for Mumford and Miller to repave Scarborough Extended in the amount not to exceed $125,000. The engineer's estimate was just under $100,000. That did not include management of traffic and their mobilization costs, but the $125,000 is a conservative number.
Thank you, Henry. So I would entertain a motion to approve a change order for a not-to-exceed amount of $125,000 for the paving of Scarborough Avenue Extended as part of the annual street paving and water main replacement contract, which was awarded to Mumford and Miller.
so moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Don Preston, a second by Commissioner Ed Chernowski to approve a change order not to exceed the amount of $125,000 for the paving of Scarborough Avenue Extended as noted, which original project was awarded to Mumford and Miller. Is there any further discussion? Anybody? Yes,
Mayor,
sir.
I do think that Commissioner Gossett had a question about the mobilization,
Gossett, come on
the
up.
timing, right?
Regarding timing of the project.
Oh, sorry about that, Commissioner. You did ask that. It would be around Thanksgiving time. Could be a little bit before, could be a little bit after.
I'm sorry, the length of the total time, do you think?
It should be less than a week.
Go ahead.
Sam Cooper, 13 Newcastle Street. I think if you have the money in the budget, that's a great project. And the way you outlined it, I think your methodology for picking Scarborough Avenue was very good. I guess my question would be, are you using, would it be, the add-on, would it be unit prices that are contained in the contract?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so I mean, you're getting the same price, they're not able to elevate it because you're adding on and stuff.
Yes,
Very
that's
good.
correct.
I think it's a good project, thank you.
Thank you, Sam. With that, we have a motion on the floor and a second. The motion, of course, is to approve the change order not to exceed amount $125,000 for the paving in Scarborough Extended. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, and the motion's carried. Thank you very much, Henry, for your agenda item report. With that, we'll go to citizen comment. This is for off-topic topics for the commissioners, and there is a up to a 3-minute limit. Does anybody want to talk? If not, I'm going to adjourn this meeting at 9:46 a.m. Second meeting, we've got 3 meetings coming today. The second meeting will start in 5 to 10 minutes approximately. We have to reset cameras and everything, so hold your breath.